the telling of a testimony. Jesus said in Acts chapter 1 verse 8 that we are to be witnesses of him. I have often said that it's very important that we tell our testimony. I believe that every child ought to know their parents' testimony. Every parent ought to know their child's testimony. And for years I've encouraged people to record them, to write them down, and even to make videos of them. One day while traveling through Ohio, I stopped by my dad's house there in Troy, and I asked him if he would give the story of how he came to know the Lord, how he was called to the ministry, and how God put him in the ministry. This video is the telling of the testimony of Evangelist Carl Brandenburg. I hope it will be an encouragement to you. It is to me every time I see it. God bless you, and tell somebody your testimony.
I'm from the great state of Kentucky.
Woohoo!
And when I don't know exactly how old it was. I think I was maybe 5 years old. And I was searching, how can I find God? And I guess really I was talking to God, how can I find you? And when I was 9 years old, we moved to Richmond, Indiana. And I had some bully kids that we used to pick on me, and this guy took me under his wing, and he he invited me to go to church with him, and it was a Salvation Army. Now, a lot of people, Salvation Army have a church? Yes, they have a church. And someone came down in the audience and, don't you want to go forward, and be saved? But I went forward because I felt they was dragging me up there. And, I knelt at the altar, but when I went back to my seat, I knew I was still lost. And I was 9 years old, approximately, and then we moved to North 10th Street in Richmond, Indiana, and near me was another Salvation Army, and I started attending there. And one night, my three sisters went to church with me. My mother went to church with me, and the preacher, old-time gospel preacher, and now I know, I look back, the Holy Spirit said, you need to be down there at that altar. Mm-hmm. And I didn't pray a long prayer. I just said, Lord, forgive me. He knew what was in my heart. And that night, when we went home, we was huddled around this sort of like a pot-boiler stove, and each one of us said, I know I'm saved. I was going to, I met this beautiful, blonde, blue-eyed girl. I got to date this girl. Well, she invited me to church. Well, it was a Pentecostal church. And even though I was in a wrong denomination, but I felt God was calling me to preach. Well, I left there because I knew what they was teaching, what little Bible I knew. I knew they was teaching false doctrine. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up going to another church, and a fellow I worked with, he's a preacher, and I said, Woody, I think God's calling me to preach, but I don't want to be preaching if he's not calling me to preach. How do you know that God's calling you to preach? How do you know? How would I know? And he said, well, the way you know, you have to do it. That's the way you know God's calling you. You have to do it. You don't have another choice. And so then when I moved to Ohio, we started attending a Baptist church. Then I knew these other churches I went to, the doctrine they was preaching wasn't what I saw in my Bible.
Yeah.
And then I got ordained in a Baptist church. I started doing magic when I was approximately 11 years old, and I had visions of being a famous magician on stage. There's the great one. And I wasn't getting very far doing that. And I went into the Air Force, and when I got out, I was in a backslidden condition. And on July the 12th, 1968, I rededicated my life. And I said, Lord, what do you want me to do with the magic? I'll get rid of it. If that's your will, I'll get rid of it. Well, many things happened during that time. I joined the Fellowship of Christian Magicians, and I found out this group of people was taking the art that people used to entertain people with, and they get their attention with the magic, and they illustrate Bible truths. And so I've been in that. Of course, I've been a member of International Brotherhood of Magicians, which we have many Christians in that organization. So my wife started a Good News Club in our house. We had around 20 kids in our living room, and Lord just like He opened the windows of heaven and say, you can use your talent to illustrate my word. And so I joined this organization, found ways you can do that, and bought many books on presenting the gospel with magic. And we did went to different churches for over 30 years. We did Bible schools for over 20 years. And we saw by me that one day, Lord, what do you want me to do with my magic? What do you want me to do? And He showed me He didn't want me to get rid of it. Yeah. He wants me to use it. And I had the blessing of being able to use my talent, get their attention, and give them the gospel while they're watching the magic. And we saw many that got saved. Many got saved.